Hello, everyone. This is Amanda Diaz with the Food Access Group. My other team members are Daniel Hart and Mel Musey. The last time we spoke with you guys, we were at the end of phase one. We had just finished evaluating food access principles after completing some research, literature reviews, and analyzing different case studies. Those principles are that food access should be economically just, place-based, ecologically viable, and a basic human right. We are now at the end of phase two. We have developed a mapping method that I'm excited to share with you. The mapping method is part of a food access guide that communities can use to address food access and food insecurity in their neighborhood or larger community. The method is like a flow chart that helps communities determine what is the best solution for them, where they should locate it, and how it should be operated and managed, and really what purpose it should serve overall. A lot of the case studies we looked at addressed food access while also addressing other social issues and local, like unique local issues. So there's room for that in this methodology as well. So next time, at the end of April, we will be finishing phase three, where we apply this method following the guide to Price Hill and identify what food access proposals we can recommend that we believe could be implemented to address food access. So ultimately an action plan. So this food access guide is for creating community-oriented solutions. It's really a tactical handbook and a planning tool that empowers communities to take action. It's based on a flexible method that can be adapted for any community's needs or unique characteristics that they want to build on or highlight. The method is based on mapping, surveys, local knowledge, local self-reflection and self-assessment in order to identify the best solution customized to that community's needs. The methodology takes into consideration local assets and partnerships, especially for operation and management. It also takes into consideration equity and opportunity and really building on that for all communities, as well as highlighting diversity and inclusion. And then as for the proposal and site design, we wish to see communities emphasizing sustainability and good urban and site design. So there'll be a little more on that last one in phase three. So this is the method overall, 3 parts: needs, then goals to find solutions. The needs part is really an assessment of existing conditions, both for food and for the social makeup of that community. Goals are to really, that section's intended to help communities identify local preferences and priorities. The 3 goals that are listed here are based on the case studies that we researched. These goals were pretty much present in each case study in a different way. Most of those developments were walkable, had some sort of affordability program in place, and then they all had a local element, whether it was that they only hired within the neighborhood or all the food was locally grown, or their main mission was to boost the local economy. There was always that element of building in place. So The last section is solutions. These solutions should be place-based and community-oriented, so they should really reflect what residents would want and would use. Food is such a personal topic, and it really reflects culture, values, and traditions. So all food access solutions really should be place-based. We think that's really important. Services are the social services that will be provided to address the needs we identified in that first phase. So a little more detail on that in a minute. And then operations is both like daily operations, what time will it open? Does it run year round? To who owns it? What programs does it offer? How are they managed? All sorts of things would fall under that operations category. So this is just the overview, but as I mentioned before, it is a flow chart with different steps, and throughout these steps you will be making maps. Like at the end of step 2, you create the existing food access map. At the end of, step 3, you create a local survey to assess need for food education. At the end of step 4, communities would make a social services needed map. For goals, there's a maximizing walkability map at the end of step 5 that takes into consideration population density, no car households, and access to the commercial districts. Then that map and a map communities would have made earlier in step 1 are used to create a comparison assessment in step 6. So after step 6, it starts to get more complicated and more maps are made and more comparisons are drawn, but this methodology is really detailed in the guide and easy to follow, but I don't want to give all the details because that would be a bit boring for a presentation. So continuing, solutions, pretty similar framework. There's only 10 steps. It's still a lot of stuff to cover. So this would be an example of an existing conditions map for food needs. This is Price Hill Neighborhood Food Assets. We highlighted the unique characteristics, and really you can see the bubbles kind of densify around the business districts, Glenway Avenue. So just the spatial orientation and the diversity and color really is a lot of information. So this data will be used later as well. So food needs is an assessment of food to take home, like groceries, stores, markets, and gardens, and food away from home, restaurants, fast foods. Once those places have been identified, those unique characteristics should be called out and emphasized, as my team did with our colors on that map I just showed you. So ethnic cuisines, healthy options, unique cultural representation, specialties, minority representation, access to fresh produce, other unique characteristics, anything that should really be built upon or emphasized. Call it out on your existing food access map. As for social needs, these were based on the various case studies across the country I mentioned earlier. Most of those places had some sort of social service provided. So these were the ones that we saw: job training, food education, youth and elderly care centers, food banks, and pantries. So communities would gather information about unemployment, poverty, age demographics, existing services, homelessness, and all of that would be compiled to create a services needed map. So these are examples of Price Hill distribution of poverty, so the services needed, food stamp distribution. This is based on a tapestry segmentation. We'll be talking more about this in phase 3, but market research, different groups, race and ethnicity distribution, demographics, So all of that would be used throughout the methodology. So getting a little more specific throughout. So the maximizing walkability map is this. Basically, it looks at population density, what households don't have cars, and where the commercial district is. And then we can kind of see where all those areas are, and when this is overlaid with the existing food access, the gaps become really obvious where people need, like, they won't be able to walk to a grocery store that's more than a mile away. So anywhere that there's a big blue bubble, there should be a grocery store nearby. That kind of logic would be applied throughout the methodology. As for assessing like need for community gardens, we outline in the methodology how to create an outdoor site feasibility map, which will be looking at tree cover and green space, slope analysis, and other factors, water access, and sun exposure. All of those compiled would help communities determine what are the best areas for a community garden or other outdoor site, like a farmer's market, flexible pop-up space. Those are the ones I'm coming up with off the top of my head. Anyway, moving on. So, last section, solutions, part we really care about. So the dotted circles, big red areas, are where we have identified as good areas for project placement. In the form after this video, we really want to hear your feedback on what you think about this. This map will be in there so you can get a closer look at it. And yeah, let us know. I want to hear what you think. So, recap, that's our method. Hope to hear from you.